Ma'am, step back from the children. They're blocking the aisle. I paid for this seat. Please, don't touch them. The concourse at Dallas, Fort Worth International Airport pulsed with its usual noise: rolling suitcases, boarding chimes, the low hum of air conditioning, but a sharp, ugly sound cut through it. A carry-on thumped against tile. A child's breath caught. Twin boys, Evan and Eli Carter, both 10, identical down to their navy hoodies, stood frozen beside their grandmother near gate C21. One of them clutched a backpack strap so tightly his knuckles whitened. The other stared at the floor, counting the scuffs. The woman in the aisle, mid-40s, manicured nails, crisp blazer, jabbed a finger toward them. They're in my way, she said again, louder. Move them. A gate agent hurried over, badge clicking against her lanyard. Ma'am, we can resolve this calmly. But calm had already slipped away. The woman's hand shot out, not a punch, not a blow, but a forceful shove meant to clear space. Evans stumbled into a stanchion. Plastic rattled. The crowd inhaled as one. Don't, their grandmother said, voice shaking. Grace Carter, 68, had traveled enough to know the rules. She raised her palms. They're children. Phones rose. A nearby businessman muttered, Hey, that's not okay. Someone else whispered, Is this really happening? The woman scoffed. Control them, she said, eyes never leaving the aisle. Or security will. Security did come. 2 officers, measured steps, hands open. The gate agent spoke quickly, words clipped by training. The boys were guided a few feet back, confusion etched across their faces. Evan's backpack lay on its side, zipper open, papers peeking out. Grace bent to retrieve it. As she did, something slid free and skidded across the floor, a laminated card, scuffed at the edges, caught by the airflow from the vent. She reached for it, then hesitated, as if remembering something important. Ma'am, one officer said to the woman. We need statements. Fine, the woman replied. Make it quick. Behind them, the departure board flickered. Flights blinked from on time to delayed and back again. Somewhere overhead, a boarding chime repeated, insistent. Eli tugged Grace's sleeve. Grandma, he whispered. Should I call Mom? Grace looked at the card on the floor. She didn't pick it up yet. Not yet, she said softly. Count to 60. The crowd leaned in. A clock above the gate ticked forward, second hand scraping the circle. Enjoying this? Tap subscribe for tomorrow's story. Grace Carter picked up the backpack first. She set it upright, zipped it closed, and only then lifted the laminated card from the floor. She wiped it once on her sleeve, careful, almost reverent, and slid it back into the outer pocket where it belonged. The card clicked softly against the pen. A small sound. A steadying one. Boys, she said, keeping her voice level. Stand by me. Evan and Eli did. They had practiced this. Airports demanded practice. Shoes straight, shoulders back, hands visible. Grace had taught them that dignity was not loud. It was precise. The security officers separated the woman from the family by a respectful distance. We'll take statements in order, the taller officer said. His badge read Officer Marcus Hill. He glanced at the boys, then at Grace. Ma'am, are they injured? No, Grace replied. Shaken. The woman folded her arms. They shouldn't be in the aisle. The gate agent, Lena Morales, checked the boarding screen. Boarding hasn't begun, she said gently. Everyone's waiting. A ripple moved through the onlookers. A man with a baseball cap murmured, She shoved a kid. A woman near the window shook her head. Phones hovered uncertain. Grace felt the familiar tug in her chest, the urge to explain, to smooth. She resisted it. Officer, she said, may I give my statement now? Officer Hill nodded. Go ahead. Grace spoke plainly. Names. Ages. The shove. The stumble. No adjectives. She had learned that clarity traveled farther than outrage. When she finished, Officer Hill turned to the woman. Ma'am? I was trying to get through, the woman said. They were blocking me. Were they threatening you? Officer Hill asked. No. Did they touch you first? No. Officer Hill wrote something down. His pen paused, then continued. The pause mattered. Lena leaned toward Grace. Your flight is to Columbus, she said. We're pre-boarding families shortly. Grace nodded. Thank you. The boys breathed again. Evan's eyes tracked the departure board. Grandma, he whispered. It changed. Grace looked up. Their flight flickered to delayed. Then another. Then two more in the same column. The air conditioning hummed louder, or maybe it only felt louder now. Officer Hill stepped aside to speak into his radio. His voice stayed low. The woman tapped her heel, impatient. Grace reached into the backpack and felt the edge of the laminated card through the fabric. She didn't take it out. She didn't need to. The card had already done its work once today, quietly somewhere else. She had counted to 60 then, too. Grandma, Eli whispered. Mom said if anything. I know, Grace said. She placed a hand on his shoulder. We wait. A supervisor arrived, Janet O'Neill, airport operations, crisp posture, calm eyes. She listened. She asked one question Grace recognized immediately. Was there physical contact? Yes, Officer Hill said. Witnessed. Janet nodded once. Thank you. Another flicker on the board. A wave of delays rolled across terminals A through E, like dominoes tipping in sequence. A low murmur grew into something else, confusion edged with concern. The woman noticed it too. What's going on? She demanded. Janet glanced at the board, then at Grace, as if seeing her for the first time. Her gaze dipped, just briefly, to the backpack pocket. Grace met her eyes. She didn't smile. Ma'am, Janet said carefully to the woman. Please remain here. Evan felt it then, the shift. The way adults' voices softened around his grandmother. The way radios chirped and stopped. The way time seemed to compress. Grace finally removed the laminated card and held it between two fingers, not raised, not hidden. The seal caught the light. Officer, she said, before this goes any further, may I place a call? The departure board blinked again. This time, an entire column went dark. Officer Hill hesitated for half a second. It was enough. You may, he said. One call. Grace didn't dial right away. She slipped the phone from her purse and checked the time, 10:18 a.m., as if confirming a fact she already knew. Then she turned slightly, shielding the boys with her body, and tapped a contact saved without a name. Just an initial. The line connected on the second ring. Yes, Grace said quietly. Dallas. Gate C-21. She listened. She nodded once. 2 children. Witnessed. Yes. She ended the call. No flourish. No explanation. Janet O'Neill watched the phone go back into the purse. Thank you, she said. Her voice had changed. Not softer, steadier. The woman scoffed. What was that supposed to be? Janet didn't answer. She pressed a button on her radio instead. Ops, this is O'Neill. Hold all discretionary movements pending confirmation. Pending what? The woman demanded. Pending confirmation, Janet repeated. A boarding chime rang, then cut off mid-note. The air felt tighter. People shifted, checking watches. A man near the window refreshed a news app. Nothing yet. Evan tugged Eli's sleeve. Why are they stopping? Eli shrugged. Maybe weather. Grace knelt so she was eye level. Remember what I told you, she said. When things get loud, you get still. They did. Officer Hill returned, eyes on his radio. Supervisor, he said to Janet. I've got multiple terminals reporting system holds. Janet exhaled through her nose. Understood. The departure board flickered again. Cancelled appeared beside a flight to Phoenix. Then another to Denver. The letters looked heavier than before, as if pressed harder into the screen. A woman in the crowd said, "My connection," and stopped. Someone else muttered, "This is a mess." The woman who had shoved Evan laughed sharply. "This is ridiculous," she said. "You can't shut down an airport over nothing." Janet turned to her fully now. "No one said anything was shut down," she replied. "Please lower your voice." Grace stood. She adjusted Evan's hoodie zipper, straightened Eli's sleeve. The laminated card stayed visible now, tucked in the backpack pocket, its corner catching the fluorescent light each time someone shifted. Janet's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and stepped aside. When she returned, her face had lost its color. She addressed Officer Hill first. "We're escalating," she said. "Protocol Level 3. Hill nodded. He knew what that meant. He had never seen it used for a gate incident. "Grace Carter?" Janet asked. "Yes. Would you be willing to step with me?" Grace didn't move yet. "My grandson's stay." "Of course," Janet said. All three. They walked 10 steps. Not far. Close enough that the crowd could still see them. Far enough that voices dropped. Janet spoke carefully. "Ma'am, I need to verify something." "The card." Grace lifted a finger, polite. "You'll receive verification shortly," she said. "It won't come from me." Janet swallowed. Her radio crackled with overlapping voices. "Ops to all terminals, stand by." "Repeat, stand by." The woman pushed forward. "Hey! You can't just..." Officer Hill stepped in. "Ma'am, stop." The clock above gate C21 ticked. 10:19, 10:20. A ripple of alerts chimed across phones in the crowd. One man read aloud without meaning to. "Nationwide, temporary holds at..." He stopped. He read again. His eyes widened. Grace felt Evan's hand find hers. She squeezed once. Somewhere, far beyond gate C21, systems were aligning, quietly, deliberately. Not to punish. To pause. To document. To protect. The woman looked around, suddenly unsure. "What's happening?" she asked, the edge gone from her voice. Janet met Grace's eyes again. This time, there was no question left to ask. The crowd had grown quiet in the way storms do, when birds vanish and the air waits. Janet O'Neill lifted her radio. "Ops, confirm scope," she said. Her voice was controlled, but her knuckles had gone white. The reply came layered with static. "Confirming coordinated holds across multiple hubs. Awaiting directive." "Multiple hubs," someone repeated softly behind them. Grace kept her posture straight. She had learned long ago that when institutions paused, it was best not to rush them. Evan watched the radios like they were alive. Eli counted ceiling panels. Officer Hill stepped closer. "Ms. Carter," he said, respectful. "Are you connected to aviation operations?" Grace answered with the truth, trimmed to its edges. "I'm connected to people who follow policy." Janet's phone buzzed again. She read, then looked up. "We've received a request for incident preservation," she said. "All footage at this gate is being mirrored." A man near the window lowered his phone. "That's serious," he whispered. The woman, her name still unknown to most, shifted her weight. "This is harassment," she said. "I want a lawyer." "You're welcome to one," Janet replied. "Right now, please remain here." The departure board updated in clusters. Not everything stopped. Some flights rolled. Others didn't. The pattern wasn't chaos. It was surgical. Grace noticed the detail others missed: the time stamp in the corner of the security camera monitor by the podium. It froze for a heartbeat, then resumed. That mattered. A second supervisor arrived, then a third. Robert Klein, Regional Compliance, introduced himself to Grace with a small nod. He did not offer his hand. He did not need to. "Ms. Carter," he said, "we're reviewing an allegation of physical contact involving minors." "Yes," Grace said. "And there's reason to believe this incident intersects with an ongoing audit." Grace neither confirmed nor denied. She glanced at the boys. Evan's jaw was set. Eli's eyes were wet but steady. Robert Klein turned to Officer Hill. Please ensure the involved parties are separated. Hill guided the woman a few steps back. She protested, then stopped when she realized the crowd had begun to film again, carefully now, narrating dates and times like amateur reporters. A gate announcement crackled and died. The hum of the air conditioning returned to the foreground. Somewhere, a child laughed, oblivious. Grace leaned down. You're doing well, she told the boys. Evan nodded. Grandma, he whispered. Is Mom watching? Grace allowed herself a single breath. Soon, she said. Robert's phone rang. He listened, eyes narrowing. Understood, he said. Yes. All right. He hung up and addressed Janet. We're moving to documentation first posture, he said. No discretionary enforcement. Preserve, then proceed. Janet nodded. Already done. The woman laughed again, thinner this time. This is insane, she said. Who are you people? Grace finally spoke to her directly. We're people who wait for the record, she said. It lasts longer than shouting. The laminated card in the backpack pocket caught the light again as Eli shifted. Robert noticed it. His gaze lingered, then moved on. He had seen cards like that before, rare, specific, issued for narrow reasons. He did not ask for it. Not yet. A murmur rolled through the gate as a news alert pinged again. A man read more carefully this time. Temporary operational holds at 150 airports. The number hung there, unfinished. Grace closed her eyes for a brief second. She had counted to 60. The people she trusted had counted too. Robert cleared his throat. Ms. Carter, he said, we may need your cooperation beyond this gate. Grace nodded. I anticipated that. Evan squeezed her hand. Eli took a breath. The woman looked at the departure board, then at the cameras, then at Grace. For the first time, fear replaced irritation. The number finished forming on the board like a verdict. 152. Airports across the country glowed with the same soft yellow hold notice. Temporary, targeted, procedural. Not a shutdown. A pause with purpose. Robert Klein lowered his voice. This isn't public yet, he said to Janet. But it will be. Janet nodded. Understood. The woman's breath quickened. You can't do this, she said, the certainty finally gone. I didn't do anything. Officer Hill remained steady. Ma'am, there was physical contact, he said. With a minor. I barely touched him. Evan looked up. You pushed me, he said. 12 words. Clear. Enough. The crowd shifted again, not closer, not farther, attentive now. Phones stayed raised, but the tone had changed. Less spectacle. More record. Robert turned to Grace. Ms. Carter, he said, I need to ask directly. Are you here as part of the audit? Grace met his eyes. I'm here to take my grandsons home, she said. The audit found us. That answer satisfied him more than a yes would have. Janet's radio chirped. Ops to O'Neill, FAA coordination confirmed. Holds are compliance-driven. Janet closed her eyes for a beat. Then she opened them. Thank you. The woman laughed again, a brittle sound. FAA? She scoffed. Over a gate scuffle? Grace spoke gently. Over a pattern, she said. Robert's gaze returned to the backpack pocket. Ms. Carter, he said, choosing his words. The card you carry, does it authorize independent verification? Grace nodded. With safeguards. And with time limits? Yes. Robert exhaled. Then I recommend you present it. Grace considered. The boys watched her face. She had promised herself she would not make a scene. She would make a record. She removed the laminated card and handed it to Robert. He read it without expression. Then he turned it over. Then back again. His jaw tightened, not in alarm, but in recognition. Janet leaned in. She read the seal. Her shoulders lowered, as if a weight had been set down carefully. "Thank you," Robert said. He handed the card back. "We'll proceed." The woman stared. "What is that?" she demanded. "A reason to slow down," Grace replied. Robert addressed Officer Hill. "Please escort the involved adult to a private area," he said. "We'll conduct a recorded interview." "This is harassment," the woman said, louder now. "No," Janet said. "This is process." As the woman was guided away, a ripple of whispers followed. Someone said, "Those kids." Someone else answered, "Their grandmother." Grace knelt again, eye level with Evan and Eli. "You did nothing wrong," she said. "You stood where you were told. You spoke the truth." Eli nodded, tears finally spilling. Evan wiped his brother's cheek with his sleeve. A chime sounded, this one complete. An announcement followed, calm and precise, about temporary holds and rebooking assistance. The crowd absorbed it. Complaints softened into questions. Robert's phone buzzed. He read, then looked at Grace. "The scope has widened," he said. 152 airports. Targeted reviews." Grace closed her eyes. She had hoped it would be fewer. She had feared it might be more. "Grandma," Evan whispered. "Is Mom really watching now?" Grace smiled, just a little. "Yes," she said. "She always was." The departure board refreshed. The holds remained. But beneath them, a new line appeared, "Compliance review in progress." Robert Klein asked for a quiet room. Dallas, Fort Worth had many. This one sat just off the concourse, glass-walled, sound-dampened, a place meant for delays and difficult conversations. Grace led the boys inside. Officer Hill stood at the door. Janet O'Neill remained just outside, fielding radios. Robert set the laminated card on the table between them, flat, centered, visible. "For the record," he said, "this authorizes independent verification under title protocols, correct?" "Yes," Grace replied. "With child protection priority. And the verification authority belongs to—" Grace finished the sentence. "The Office of Network Integrity." Robert nodded once. He didn't look surprised. He looked relieved. Outside the glass, the concourse moved differently now. Agents spoke in pairs. Supervisors appeared where none had been before. Screens displayed careful language. The pause was working. Robert leaned back. "Ms. Carter," he said, "we've had a months-long audit on selective enforcement at gates. Who gets stopped, who gets hurried, who gets handled. Patterns without paperwork." Grace listened. "Patterns harm children first," she said. "Yes," Robert agreed. "That's why this," he tapped the card lightly, "exists." The boys watched him, solemn. Evan asked the question adults avoided. "Is this because we're twins?" Robert met his eyes. "No," he said. "It's because you're children." Grace felt a pressure ease in her chest she hadn't known she was carrying. Janet stepped into the room, phone in hand. "Confirmation is complete," she said. "The holds are compliance-driven across 152 airports. Targeted, temporary, documented." Robert closed his eyes for a second. "Thank you." "What about the woman?" Grace asked. "She's being interviewed," Janet said. "Recorded. Witness statements preserved." Grace nodded. "Good." Robert gathered his notes. "Ms. Carter," he said, "I should say this plainly. You're not just a witness." Grace held his gaze. "Neither are you." He smiled, quick, professional. "Your daughter," he said, "is expecting your call." Grace's phone buzzed, right on time. She answered. "Mom," Dr. Evelyn Carter said. Her voice was steady, controlled, the voice of someone used to being heard when it mattered. "I'm on the line with compliance." "We're safe," Grace said. "The boys are brave." "I know," Evelyn replied. "I saw." Evan's eyes widened. You saw? Yes, Evelyn said gently. And now others will too. Grace ended the call and placed the phone down. She felt the eyes on her, not hungry, not curious, respectful. Outside, an announcement rolled through the terminal explaining rebookings, transparency, assistance. The language mattered. It was new. Robert stood. This is the turn, he said quietly. From incident to record. Grace rose with him. She took the laminated card and slid it back into the backpack pocket. The seal caught the light one last time here. Evan looked at the glass wall, at the people moving with purpose. Grandma, he said, did we do this? Grace shook her head. You didn't do this, she said. You allowed it. A subtle difference. A vital one. The interview room door closed behind the woman with a soft click. Cameras stayed on. Officer Hill took his place at the side. The tone inside shifted from confrontation to chronology. State your name for the record, Robert Klein said. She did. Her voice sounded smaller without an audience. Outside, the concourse absorbed the news in pieces. A scrolling alert appeared on the terminal screens. Careful wording, no blame, only process. Still, people understood what a pause meant when it was this precise. Janet O'Neill moved with a clipboard now, not a radio. Reaccommodations are underway, she told agents. Document any discretionary contact. Grace sat with the boys in the glass room across the hall. The air conditioner hummed. Evan traced the table edge with his finger. Eli leaned against Grace's shoulder. Robert returned 20 minutes later. Her statement conflicts with 3 witnesses and the footage, he said. That matters. Grace nodded. Truth usually does. There's more, Robert added. The audit flagged prior complaints at 2 hubs involving similar behavior. Unresolved. Unrecorded. Grace closed her eyes. The pause outside grew heavier, not longer, heavier. The weight of a pattern. Janet stepped in. We have confirmation from network integrity, she said. The holds will lift in stages once remediation steps are acknowledged at each airport. How many steps? Evan asked, earnest. Robert smiled despite himself. Enough to make sure it doesn't happen again. A phone chimed somewhere beyond the glass. A man read aloud from his screen. Transportation officials say temporary holds were triggered by compliance reviews following an incident at Dallas, Fort Worth. He stopped. He read the rest silently. The woman emerged from the interview room. Her posture had changed. No bluster. No edge. Just a tired stiffness. She avoided Grace's eyes. Officer Hill spoke gently. Ma'am, you're free to go pending follow-up, he said. Please be aware of conditions. She nodded. She left. Grace watched her disappear into the crowd. Not with satisfaction. With resolve. Robert addressed Grace formally now. Ms. Carter, he said, your authorization will be noted as properly invoked. Grace inclined her head. As designed. Janet added. We'll be issuing updated guidance today, clear language on child protection at gates. That's good, Grace said. Clarity protects everyone. The departure board refreshed again. A few flights resumed. Others stayed paused, each with a line of text explaining why. People complained less when they were informed. Evan's phone buzzed. A message from his mother. Proud of you. He showed Grace. She smiled. Robert checked his watch. I should brief headquarters, he said. Ms. Carter, thank you. Grace stood. Thank you for listening. As he left, Janet lingered. You knew this would be hard, she said. Yes, Grace replied. But easier than letting it continue. The boys gathered their things. The backpack felt lighter though it wasn't. At the gate, a new announcement rang out, measured, respectful. Assistants' desks opened. Agents apologized without excuses. The pause was lifting. The record remained. The fallout did not arrive as noise. It arrived as paper. By mid-afternoon, Dallas, Fort Worth had become a place of clipboards and checklists. Agents read from printed guidance. Supervisors initialed boxes. Screens displayed a single, calm message explaining the staggered lift of holds, airport by airport, step by step. Grace watched it unfold from a seat near gate C-21. Evan and Eli ate pretzels from a paper cup. Their shoulders had dropped. That mattered more than the delays. Janet O'Neill returned with a folder tucked under her arm. "Ms. Carter," she said, "we've issued interim directives. Clear language on physical contact. Clear escalation paths. Mandatory documentation." Grace nodded. "Will it last?" "It will if we keep writing it down," Janet said. "And if people read." Across the terminal, a small knot of reporters gathered, local first, then regional. They spoke to officials, not to Grace. That was intentional. The story wasn't her face. It was the process. A television screen flickered on above a bar. A headline scrolled, measured, cautious. Compliance reviews prompt temporary holds at 152 airports. No names. No accusations. Just facts. Officer Hill stopped by. "Ma'am," he said, "witness statements have been logged." "Thank you. Thank you," Grace replied. He hesitated. "I've got kids," he added. "I'm glad this happened the way it did." Grace met his eyes. "So am I." The boy's flight to Columbus reappeared with a new time. Not soon, but certain. Grace booked a meal voucher. The gate agent smiled, tired, genuine. As evening settled, messages rippled outward. Airports acknowledged the guidance. Unions circulated summaries. Training departments scheduled refreshers. It wasn't justice with a gavel. It was quieter. It would last longer. Evan leaned back. "Grandma," he said, "do you think the lady learned?" Grace considered. "Learning takes time," she said. "But the system learned today." A final announcement thanked passengers for patience. The tone was different, less corporate, more human. The departure board blinked. More flights resumed. They boarded at dusk. The jet bridge smelled faintly of coffee and cleaner. The aircraft door stood open like a promise kept. Grace let the boys go first. Evan paused, then stepped on. Eli followed, counting steps under his breath until the carpet changed color. A flight attendant met them with a practiced smile. Then she saw the boys' faces. The smile softened. "Welcome aboard," she said slower. "Take your time." Grace felt something settle. They found their row. Window, middle, aisle. Grace took the aisle as she always did. Evan pressed his forehead to the glass. The runway lights blinked in steady lines. As passengers stowed bags, the captain's voice came on, measured, calm. "We appreciate your patience today," he said. "Safety and respect guide everything we do." Respect. The word mattered. A man across the aisle leaned over. "Rough day," he said. "Yes," Grace replied. "But a good one." He nodded, understanding more than she expected. The safety demonstration began. Evan watched this time. Eli followed along, miming the gestures. Grace smiled. When the doors closed, Grace reached into the backpack and touched the laminated card once, only to feel it was there. She did not take it out. She did not need to. Its work was finished for now. The plane pushed back. The engines hummed. The runway lights blurred, then stretched. Evan turned. "Grandma," he said, "are we in trouble?" Grace shook her head. "No," she said. "We're going home." The wheels lifted. Dallas fell away, a grid of lights becoming something softer. Grace closed her eyes. She thought of clipboards and checklists, of pauses and records. Of the way small, careful actions could shift something large. The cabin lights dimmed. A drink cart rolled. Life resumed its ordinary rhythm. 3 months later, the airport in Columbus, Ohio felt smaller than Grace remembered. Not quieter. More deliberate. Posters near security showed new language, plain, unmistakable. Children first. Hands off. Document everything. The font wasn't flashy. It didn't need to be. Grace stood with Evan and Eli beneath the sign, waiting for Evelyn. The boys had grown, an inch each, maybe more confidence than that. Evan carried his backpack properly now, both straps on. Eli scanned the room, curious. A woman nearby corrected her tone mid-sentence when addressing a family. Grace noticed. Small changes mattered. Evelyn appeared through the sliding doors, lab coat folded over her arm. She hugged her mother first, then her sons. "I'm proud of you," she said again, this time without a phone between them. They walked past a kiosk playing a muted news clip. A caption read, "Compliance reforms expand nationwide." No faces. Just policy. At home that evening, Grace placed the backpack by the door. She removed the laminated card and set it in a drawer she rarely opened. The drawer closed with a soft click. Evan watched. "Do you think you'll need it again?" Grace smiled. "I hope not," she said. "But hope works better when it's prepared." Later, as dusk settled, the boys played in the yard. Their laughter rose and fell with the cicadas. Grace sat on the steps, hands folded, listening. Across the country, gates opened and closed. Agents followed checklists. Children waited with grandparents. Records were kept. Dignity, once written down, tended to stay. Yendi, thanks for watching.